Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Picard Season 3 on Paramount+. And this was at least better than other seasons of Picard. However, it still has a lot of problems that don't kind of get it out of the territory of, you kind of went completely nutty-doo-dah on this stuff. So, this definitely the big kind of lead up into this season was that they were getting most of the Next Generation crew back as pretty much like a reunion thing. And to an extent, that kind of works out. We do get to check back into the major kind of characters from the Next Generation and how they're kind of doing and having them interact with each other since it's been so long. So in that kind of rationale, it kind of succeeds, even though in certain kind of instances they go for jokes at certain kind of characters' expenses or conflict and drama at expenses of other characters that just doesn't seem like it fits that well. And then overall, the complete overarching plot of this just gets completely and utterly convoluted and stupid. It's definitely an example of seeing that somebody wanted to get to a certain point and had to work backwards to try and make it work. And oh god, the season length is a big problem of that. There are two kind of ways that this probably panned out. They had an idea for a movie and they elongated it into 10 episodes, or they had an idea that could have been done in a longer kind of usual kind of episode format, so that way we could actually take time enough with our character arcs and understand who they are and what's kind of going on and what kind of journey we want them to go on, and then truncated it to just 10 episodes. That's the downfall of what's going on with TV at the moment, because certain shows and certain stories excel at certain kind of lengths, like Game of Thrones worked with 10 episodes up until it went completely nutty-doo-dah and decided to truncate it even further to like 6 and 7. Others were good with 16. Other shows were good at 22. And of course, there are vast examples of them not working at certain kind of ones. You need to hone in what your story is and how much time you need for that story. Picard doesn't really do that because we do have a lot of fuckity-doo-dah, fuckity-day, let's get this plot kind of going out of its way. So, we pretty much get dropped in with Beverly Crusher being with who we don't know at this point, but a young kind of dude. She is doing she has her own badass action scene, which I don't have a problem with, but you don't just, you do have to kind of explain it at a certain point, and they kind of do, but she's going ham on these people, and it's Jesus, what the hell is kind of going on? I mean, it's nice to kind of explain that going on, but it's essentially they just give her the one action scene, and then they fucking put her in a stasis pod, and then she just does what Beverly usually does throughout the rest of the season. Granted, she does get to control a ship at a certain point and start firing shit off, but I understand that she probably wanted more to do, and they just gave her 2 bones and then just went go just fucking do your Beverly science medical bullshit. It's okay. I mean, at least it's not the fucking grandma's ghost kind of shit, alright? Oh, Jesus Christ. But they're getting attacked by this group. She's pretty much dusting and going ham-o on them, and then she decides to send off a message to Picard. Here's where bullshit number 1 kind of comes into effect. Her idea is to send this coded message that she needs help to a 20-year-old plus Starfleet communicator. That's if I needed help and I decided to fucking send a text to someone's old flip phone from 2003. I mean, how many of us have kept that kind of shit? I mean, granted, Picard doing that and keeping it as a memento, yes, makes sense. However, it actually working and having stuff from like getting the frequencies, it's just fucking bizarre and just like definitely nostalgia baiting. Member berry is right in the fucking hell, bam. But it's just okay. That wouldn't work because I mean shit. Just thinking of how much technology advances now in the Star Trek universe. 20 plus years would probably be the difference between like beaming it into someone's head or them being able to manipulate space-time and just fucking appear and be like, yo, I need fucking help. Yeah, I'm Q-ish now. What up? I mean, to that kind of effect, you've kind of like evolved and all that kind of shit and got crazy ass powers or can fucking like do warp tunneling or something like that. It's like, alright. But that's the first thing that kind of hits on you because we get to Picard. He's pretty much getting ready to like move with his new love interest Laris, who just essentially gets the one token scene of being like, we'll meet back up. And then he just fucking goes off to kind of save Beverly Crusher. It's like, alright, so he goes. We get some stuff with like Will being pretty much like the older kind of generation. He's just a captain. Granted, there could be character reasons, but we don't have time for that. He brings up the whole thing about like, she brought up this kind of code. It's like, oh yeah, you weren't involved in that, but there was like some weird ass shit with the Enterprise, so we kind of made this. So, Starfleet's compromised kind of shit, so let's kind of go. So they fucking, I mean, I kind of get it, but their whole idea is to essentially hijack the Titan, which Riker commanded. They essentially, like, there's going to be Frontier Day. So, this ship, which is pretty much like a retro throwback to Kirk's Enterprise, which I'm good with. I'm thankful for that. And they just go on. We see that the XO second in command is 7 of 9, but of course, most of the crew call her Hansen because of Shaw, the captain, calling her Hansen. And we see that LaForge's daughter is there, well, one of his daughters, and we get her nickname as Crash because she crashed a shuttle, and she's like, sweet good God, my dad's friends are pretty much just like shitting me out on the bed. It's like, alright, I get it, I understand it. They at least made her interesting. She's more of the pilot kind of one instead of the engineer, so it's like, alright, interesting kind of dynamic and interplay there. See how that kind of affects her familial relationships. However, again, we don't have really time for that. So their idea is to like go and inspect this ship and then pretty much commandeer it to go near where Beverly is and to steal a shuttle. There are so many different ways that Picard and William Riker and anybody else involved in The Next Generation would have been able to just make this into a kind of a better scenario, but no, Shaw's like, we're not doing that. He essentially, Shaw's an interesting kind of character in that they could have done something cool with him, but they essentially have him flipped to dick mode most of the time, even though he does make sense on some of his calls, but they just keep him in dick mode. I don't fault the actors for that, or even like, because we see them doing crazy shit because it's the content. They have to have the plot demand that they act like dumb fucking assholes in certain instances, and he just has flipped on dick mode and acting like a dick toward Picard, Riker, Hansen, everything like that. But then, of course, we get the whole trope of like, he has his reasons, and it's like, honestly, there's no need to be a dick. Like, you can have some kind of things and you can be uneasy about people and all that, but like, fucking O'Brien's kind of shit with the Kardashians was handled better than this in The Next Generation. A lot of different things, like fucking, well, here's the thing. We're going to be getting some DS9 kind of callbacks in this motherfucker too. So, Cisco's kind of problems with Picard made more sense, and of course they have to fucking recycle that motherfucker in here with Shaw. And we'll get to that eventually. So, Hansen decides to be like, you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway. And they drive there, and they fly there, they take the shuttle, and Shaw's like, why the fuck did you do this? Like, what the fuck's going on here? Why did you just let two crazy assholes fucking do this? Because he's thinking of the repercussions and what can be going on with the crew of his ship, which, yes, that's what a captain of a starship should do. And then also, Hansen also brings up, we probably should go out and help him because it gets into shitty doodah kind of territory because they land on there. And that we learned that the young man is Beverly's son, and they're trying to like help her out. She's like in the med pod, but then this crazy ass thing comes and like kind of is trying to attack him and blow up the ship. And then Seven's like, hey, do you want to be the asshole that let like 2 living legends die? It's like, fine, even though they stuck their fucking fist into a light socket, and a lot of people would be like, oh, they fucking commandeered our ship and act like a couple of cowboys, so. And it's really kind of weird because honestly, Rafi could have probably been the one that they would like get to since she's got a ship, but they've got her working on another angle of like, hey, here's this shit going on, and she's like trying to find this cell that like stole shit from Daystrom Institute, and then she's like going through and doing all this kind of stuff. It's the most, it's only pretty much used to get Worf back into the fold because, alright, here's the thing. Worf's her handler, and he's like an independent contractor. She's working for Starfleet Intelligence, which evidently everybody knows about Section 31, which is fucking insanity. I mean, if it's a super duper secret organization that nobody's supposed to know about, they would come up with a different kind of name of like Chocolate Caribou or something like that, and everybody would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Section 31 would be like, hey, that's your FBI, CIA, and then you got your Black Ops squad, and it's like Punky Brewster. Like, that's a kind of stupid name. Yeah, but would you fucking would you take an organization seriously that would be doing that? Not really. So when I come and punch the shit out of you and you're like, who the fuck are you and what do you know about me? Haha, bitch, I'm here. Like, if everybody knows you like that, it's like, it's not a secret organization. That's just an issue. But Rafi is looking into this from Worf, and Worf is doing this because of Commander Laren? Fuck me. Laren, yeah. Probably, yeah, Laren. I'm probably saying it wrong, but no. And it's just like, oh, okay. Because that comes in later on. But she's fucking side questing over here because we gotta understand how this fucking ship gets portal gun tech. Because she's doing stuff and then she's like trying to figure this stuff out, and then she's too late, and we see that this Starfleet Recruitment Center is pretty much destroyed by this portal tech that looks eerily similar to like Doctor Strange portal tech. I'm like, you couldn't have made it your own kind of way? Like, even trying to use like weird kind of portal tech shit that was in the Abrams universe. I mean, that at least looked different. This, it was just like, why the fuck did they jack that shit? But she's going nutty. She's trying to talk to her ex-husband and trying to get information, and she tries to get this Ferengi to give her information, but then her handler Worf comes in and saves her ass because she's tweaking on some shit because the dude's like, hey, you better show me you know what you're fucking doing, asshole. And it's just like, okay, so it was a badass Worf introduction. And then we see that he is more of a pacifist than everything, and he's the one that gets kind of screwed over the most on the kind of jokes because he's trying to like balance himself out, and then later on they make him seem like an old man when he's just sleeping after pretty much the climactic battle at the end of the season. He, for some reason, when they're fighting Borg, because of course Next Generation Borg are a huge thing, they're the big bad, woo, he's using a sword, and he had a phaser in the hilt, and Riker's like, why didn't you use the phaser? Swords are fun. Like, he didn't say anything of like, oh, a sword would probably be a better battle option against the Borg because of their adapting shields or whatnot. Now, granted, that you could be a thing of like a certain kind of sword tech that would be able to get past their things. I'm like, okay, that would work. Not, oh, alright. So they're trying to figure out what's going on with this. They figure out, they like kill the Ferengi dude, but they're trying to find this other kind of guy. They get into this whole kind of spiel where like they kind of trust each other because she pretty much makes it like she kills Worf, but not. Let me see here. There's that. So while that's going on, they then capture this one dude who they think is pretty much responsible for the theft of the devices, and they think he's tweaking, but we find out it's a changeling, because as they're going through and doing stuff in there, we find out that changelings are involved here, which makes really no sense until we get to their kind of spiel as this is going on. So essentially, they get Beverly and Jack, who we learn is the name of the son, onto the ship, because the Titan pops in to save their asses. And then they do all this weird shit in this nebula that's actually alive and trying to give birth to, like, jellyfish babies. It's really kind of weird because there's a whole bunch of, like, stupid shit that's pretty much going on. They're like, oh shit, there's a changeling on board. What are we doing with this? And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? Because of what was going on with the Dominion War and DS9, it's like, why are they introducing this here? There's not really that much connection with the Next Generation. They should have went with that weird, crazy little parasite kind of thing and everything, but they just fucking go with the changelings because reasons? I mean, shit, they could have at least maybe went with, instead of like a changeling kind of thing, some kind of nano kind of virus that the Borg get introduced to utilize them just completely effectively. But I mean, they utilize the Borg shit a lot, so it's like, whatever. So they're doing all this kind of stuff. Shaw gets knocked out of commission, gives Riker command. They're trying to figure out what to do. The ship is able to use portal tech, and Picard's like, fight it, fight it, fight it. And then Riker's like, fine. They try to fight it, and they pretty much are almost dying and getting sucked deeper into the nebula. Riker decides to be a complete ass to him, but we find out that it's because he is pretty much into a depression because of the death of his son and thinking that there's nothing in the afterlife. And it's like, okay, there's not enough time to handle this effectively. And their clash, it just felt like to be drama for drama's sake. Because, oh, you need characters to have conflict. It's like, there can be conflict while two people that respect each other and challenge each other aren't being assholes and dicks to each other. Like, with the Next Generation, Picard and Riker's kind of, at least, relationship, what I saw, was that Riker was more of the cowboy Kirkish type, whereas Picard was more of the cautious one that would kind of try and think things through, and they would bounce ideas off of each other. Sometimes Riker's kind of more cavalier kind of attitude and more kind of offensive kind of qualities would make Picard think of some kind of different kind of way to approach a situation, and vice versa. And that was kind of more effective like that. It's just like, oh, I'm old as fucking shit and we need to fucking kick this thing's ass. It's like, and Riker's like, I'm responsible for all these people, kind of echoing the stuff going on with Shaw. And then they're trying to figure out all this stuff. We learned that Beverly, the whole relationship with Beverly, and to make this thing work just sounds so stupid. She's like, yeah, I was going to tell you I was pregnant, but like you went through all this shit, and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to keep Jack safe from all that shit. And then it's like, you've been like hunted by changelings for all this time, or however fucking long it's been, and they want Jack for the stupidest of fucking reasons, but we will get there eventually. And it's just like, really? And she's like, oh, because he's Picard's. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, you could have at least given him the choice. And that's Picard's strongest argument. Like, you took that choice away from him. And honestly, I somewhat understand Beverly's kind of reticence of having Picard in Jack's life. However, Picard makes a lot of great points of, we learned about his father and all that kind of stuff, but that she took the choice away from him, and that's the big kind of thing. And then he tries to connect a bond with Jack, and he's like, oh, I didn't talk to you because he said that Starfleet was the family that he really all he ever needed. It's like, he didn't know that you fucking existed, bro. Like, you can't just, like, take that kind of way of how he's, like, talking about it and just be like, oh, yeah. And then we learned that, like, Shaw was at the Battle of Wolf 359, hates the cutest kind of thing. That's why he's got his burner on for Picard and 7 of 9 and why he calls her Hanson. And they're, like, pretty much running out of power and shit because they got fucked up. So they decide to ride the wave of the energy from the nebula birthing shit, bust out of there, fuck up the Shrike a little bit as it's like, ah, shit, and evidently she's like cutting her hand and she's like talking to someone, but that's never really even talked about who she's really talking to. It's just like, oh, okay. So they escape and they actually team up with Laren, and she's like, Starfleet's compromised. Fucking changelings everywhere. It's like, okay. And then we get the information that the changelings were pretty much experimented on by Starfleet to be made into pretty much weapons, and that she took the face of her captor, got the rest of her changeling people, because Beverly was like looking in and they could like solidify more of their organs and everything to bypass scanners and shit. So it's like, ah shit, what the fuck's going on here? And they stole other kind of stuff from Daystrom as well, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with there. So the team is sent in. We learned that there's this golem that's got data, lore, and B4 linked up all in there. Moriarty pops up, and I'm like, I thought he was on a cube fucking thrown out or something like that, and he's like the defense mechanism. And that we see that Kirk's body's in there as well. It's like, guess that's going to be brought back. And Picard's body was stolen because they took shit out of his brain, because the changelings are working with the Borg, and the Borg are trying to use a techno or an organic kind of means of control, because during certain kind of things, Jack was able to utilize his powers to control people to do certain things, and he was able to help Sydney stay alive because the changelings are trying to get Jack. There's this whole situation where they're trying to take over the Titan. Doesn't work out. They kill Vadic, the leader of the strike, and destroy the strike and everything, but of course Starfleet's going after them because the changelings are the ones that are involved with Starfleet. It's like, god damn it. Let's see. And Laren pretty much got him up to speed with that, but the thing is, she was forced to pretty much sacrifice herself to save the Titan and fuck up this ship, and it's like, oh, at least they kind of had a nice kind of thing between Picard and Laren, where Laren made more and better arguments, where Picard was pretty much more on an emotional kind of thing of her betraying him, and Starfleet, where she's like, sometimes you shouldn't completely put your faith in an institution. Like, you do to a certain extent, but then when things start going bad and injustices are happening, sometimes you have to follow that kind of rationale more. And she came back from the Maquis. She did her time, and then she got upgraded to commander and is like, ah shit, I gotta deal with this. And gave information from her earring about what's kind of going on. Oh, and they also hooked up with Geordi and stole fucking the Klingon bird of prey cloaking device from Star Trek 4. It's like, alright, just fucking keep it. I don't mind it on certain kind of practical standpoints, but there does come a point where you are just chucking shit in, and it just doesn't feel like, it feels plot forced. It's like, fine, do it, whatever. And Geordi tried to talk his daughter to staying with him and staying out of what's going on, and she's like, no, we gotta protect Starfleet and help people and deal with this kind of conspiracy. He's like, alright, cool, and Geordi pretty much gets like stuck with them and having to deal with what's going on. And we learned that the Irumodic syndrome that Picard had is what Jack has, but that's actually not Irumodic syndrome, it's the Borg shit. Like, this is the insane thing. Okay, so we've got infiltration in the highest echelons of Starfleet. They've got the whole fleet that's going to be brought into Sol for Frontier Day, which is the stupidest fucking idea I've ever heard in anything. Like, you might bring in certain kind of flagships to be like, hey, Frontier Day. Every ship? And it's like the smallest Starfleet fleet I've seen. I'm like, this is it? How are you fucking protecting anything? It's like, whatever. Oh god. So, the Borg are utilizing this. They had to... Their whole plan is to utilize this into assimilating, having all this kind of techno shit, put it into the transporters, and it works under, like, on people under the age of 25. Like, once you reach age 25 or the age of maturity for your, like, race or species, it doesn't fucking work, which is like, that sounds stupid as shit. Never mind the fact that they were banking on that Picard had... Their whole plan is precipitated on Picard getting out of the collective and then having a fucking kid at some point that would survive to an age where it would be able to utilize its powers to then take over, Borgify these people, and do this shit. It's like, what? I'm like, okay. So then, Starfleet, like, it's not okay. It's just complete and utter insanity, and just doesn't really jive with what's going on. Riker does get captured at some point, as well as Troy. They have their own kind of thing. Worf and Rafi get them out. That's the whole thing that dealt with the tying up of the fucking strike and Vadic and killing her ass. They try and check in with Tuvok, who's a captain now, but he is a changeling. We get a point where they're trying to figure out what's going on with Data, and him and Lore pretty much fight. Lore does some crazy shit where they fucking are pretty much allow him to have certain access to the ship. I'm like, Lore's an asshole. Why in the ever-loving fuck nuggets would you attempt to have him have any kind of access to any of this shit? Like, is there no way to pretty much section off and make a little kind of thing, a little kind of computer system, where you can monitor what's going on with the division between Lore and Data in this golem body, and just not have it connected to the network? I mean, shit. Airplane mode, motherfucker. I can airplane mode this motherfucker. Like, shit, man. God. But, no, he then had to, like, somewhat kind of help out the fucking changelings. But then, we then get to the point where we get this kind of combination where Data and Lore pretty much fight, but Lore's pretty much taking everything from Data. It's like, I'm gonna win! And it's like, he's just giving shit away. And then we have the fusion of Lore and Data, where that's the interesting kind of part. Data's kind of back. It doesn't really completely screw over the Data death that occurred in the previous seasons, but he does have some interesting kind of loreisms, and he seems more human with everything that he's kind of encountered. So it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, and it's nice to see Geordi and Data kind of mucking about and having their kind of relationship kind of explored and everything so far, and then having the rest of the crew together and having them sit down and trying to figure out what to do. So then we see that they get their plan into effect because Jack decides to go out to Jack? Yeah. Go out, figure out what's going on, and evidently there's a Borg cube with the Borg Queen on Jupiter that anybody could fucking see naked eyed and be like, the fuck's that? And they just pretty much undo Janeway's kind of shit of fucking over the Borg Queen, and Picard's stuff of fucking over the Borg Queen too. It's just like, alright, and then they just utilize them. Evidently the ships have a thing where they can all be connected for fleet coordination. I'm like, that sounds like a Borg thing. Why in the fuck would you do that? And then, of course, it starts getting implemented. Jack's pretty much utilizing them to take over all the stuff. They're blasting the station to try and get to Earth and destroy it. And then Picard and his crew are able to take a shuttle, pretty much fly to the museum. And Geordi has pretty much rebuilt the Enterprise D. And they essentially fly to the Borg Cube to rescue Jack and take that out. We get Riker, Worf, and Picard going down. Picard pretty much going down, jacking himself in to kind of talk to Jack and be like, you know what, I'm just going to be here with you. Because Jack is lonely and he likes the kind of connection that goes on with this, but he also knows that it's not right. Let's see. Seven pretty much took back control of the Titan, pretty much was like flying around with the cloaking device, doing some kind of interesting maneuvers. But the next generation ones are the ones that pretty much do everything. Beverly doing her little kind of thing. Worf having his weird things, but Picard's able to get through to Jack, and they're able to bust their way out, and the Borg-Queen's like, nah! And then blows up after they've blown up everything on the cube, and everyone's like, oh shit, and they rebuild the, like, station, like, a year later. We see that Jack has gone through Starfleet because Picard's tried to talk to him of, like, a different kind of way, a way of finding his own path, but he's, like, only an ensign now. And then we see that the Titan has been rechristened as the Enterprise. 7 is the captain, Rafi's our XO, and Jack is actually a special counselor. I'm like, that's interesting. We'll have to see how that kind of works out for him. LaForge's daughter is now a lieutenant, and we get it cut off before we can hear what Seven's, make it so, engage, hit it. So we'll see how that kind of works out, because they're supposed to be a Star Trek Legacy kind of show. We'll have to see what goes on with that. And then the kind of stinger bit at the end is we find out that, well, Q is Q's alive, but the thing is, time's kind of different. Non-linearity, I mean, it's a way to get around the Q death. And this is pretty much him saying to Jack Crusher that his father's trial is done. His now begins. With his generation and everything, which makes sense. And kind of member-berry-ish, but it also makes sense that Q would kind of do this because of what it kind of, like, represents. The trial never ends. There's always seeing what goes on, what can be done for a race, and what their kind of potentiality can be. So, even though there's the member-berry aspects, and of course they get the original Q to do it, I lean more towards this being like, yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense for what goes on with Jack and all the rest of the plot and everything. I've seen what could be going on and what Q would do and put him through and everything, and what other beings of the Q continuum would, because of the utter insanity that goes on within Star Trek, and seeing how the continuum would react to different kind of ways that humanity and the rest of the Federation would advance. But it's just like, that worked out for me more than it didn't. There's a lot of this stuff in Member Berries was, it's like, sweet Jesus. This season was both too long and too short, if that makes sense. Like, depending upon, there's either spread way too much to where most of the stuff in the Nebula didn't do worth a damn. I don't care about the fucking thing birthing out the space jellyfish and be like, ooh, you've got limited effects budget, you got limited episodes budget, use your shit effectively. I mean, shit, Picard could have been, like, going en route to him and Laris's kind of thing, where she just gets dropped like a motherfucker, and it's just Picard working with Beverly, and Leo like, god damn, I'm sorry for you, lady. And they're going together, like, with Jack and everything, to drop him off, and it's just, alright, whatever. I want it to work, it's just the execution and the content and everything that was going on. And most of it, I do not fault the actors for, it's more the content, because the thing is, I kind of take myself out of it and what I've seen when I review these kind of things, and I'm like, is this the actor, or is this the content and the direction of what's going on with it? Because even if you're the best actor, there are some things that you cannot say, especially if someone's like, you need to do it this way, and you need to say this thing. If I have to say, puffer, muffer, hoo-ha, ka, and have it come across as, like, serious as shit, good luck with that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, good luck. It takes a lot to do that, and, like, if you have to say it in a, like, a weird kind of way, with a weird kind of step and a weird kind of jig, there's nothing you can really do. So, out of it all, Jack was kind of handled weirdly, and that's mainly down to the plot details. Granted, where he's left off at the end gives some good potential. I liked that Sydney had some kind of, she has potential as well. A series following Seven as a captain of a starship, and then these kind of other kind of characters, there's potential there. Do I have faith that they can execute on it? Fuck no. Like, after all we've seen, I'm expecting... I'd have low expectations, and I would expect myself to be surprised by, like, some good quality every once in a while. That'd be like, oh, okay, that kind of works. Like, Q coming back and be like, the trial never ends. Your dad's shit's done. Now let's see what you fuckers do. It's like, yeah, Q would fucking do that. And, of course, the, like, whole concept of time for him, it completely makes sense that it would happen that kind of way. Like, there's a time point where he does die, but yet that doesn't mean he's dead everywhere and every time. It's interesting to get into those kind of aspects. Now, would I recommend this? If you're into the Next Generation and you just kind of want to see the actors just do the same kind of shit, sure. Don't expect a good kind of plot. Don't expect good Star Trek from it. The Next Generation, DS9, they have better scenarios and everything in there. I'd go back and watch those. But if you're just like, I kind of want to see them do a last kind of hurrah, sure. If you're into good story and plot, I would not recommend this. Same with kind of character and action. Action's serviceable at best. It's not the worst that I've seen. I've seen even worse where, like, you don't even understand what the fuck's going on because the camera angles are changing every fucking 3 seconds. But yeah. I at least enjoyed this more because of seeing certain kind of at least inklings of characters that I've watched before in the Next Generation and leaving a nice kind of potential for the future that could potentially work out, but we'll have to see. I don't know, man. This was fucking weird. It wasn't the worst, but God, it was not the best either. So, those are my opinions on the season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.